Everyone. My name is Heather Schroeder. I'm a client manager here at Perceptive Software. You were invited to participate in our webinar today by either myself, my colleagues Beth Dees and Kathleen Oxby, and we've also invited our colleague Judd Millam, who's the product manager of our mobile applications. So just want to start out with a quick caveat. We've moved into our new corporate headquarters building, some of us just on Monday. We've had a couple of internet issues. Hopefully we'll be fine, but there may be a little bit of delay. So try and bear with us. We'll try and be aware of that here on our end. But today, again, our Lunch and Learn is going to focus on two different areas, our Perceptive mobile application and also our mobile capture. As of today, Perceptive mobile devices is currently supporting iPhone, Android, and Windows devices. And what it allows you to do is it allows end users to participate in workflow, to view documents, route them forward in workflow, or to put a hold on a document or a form if they need to do more investigation. What this product means to your organization and to your end users is that it supports remote employees and employees who may be out of the office to not have to wait until they return to the office to approve documents or participate in workflow. And it also increases overall productivity. The Perceptive mobile capture product today is supported with the iPhone, but we are going to be coming out with additional support for Android and I believe Windows devices in the future. But as of today, it's currently the iPhone. And what the mobile capture product will do is it will allow you to capture content from your iPhone, acquire those images, either taking them at the time you're looking at, say, damage on a car if it's an insurance claim, or a patient who may have a rash on their skin. You can either take the photo at that time or upload a photo from your camera roll and import that directly into Perceptive content. It allows you to also do indexing of that image as well. And the goal or the benefit of this product is that it allows you to minimize delays in getting that information, those visuals, into Perceptive content. So if you're a physician and need to make a diagnosis or determination, you have those images right there in front of you. And it also allows for more remote and mobile employees to quickly submit information into Perceptive content. So that's just a really quick high overview on both of those solutions. I'm going to turn it over to Judd, and he is actually going to walk us through a demo of both products.
We don't see my screen. Pass it up. Oh, here we go.
There we go.
So just a little bit of Wi-Fi latency here. We thought that would happen a little faster than it did. So here in just a couple of seconds, you should start seeing Okay, so hopefully by now, I'm looking at the display, so hopefully by now everybody can see my iPhone. And so what I'm doing is I'm using a utility called Reflector and airplaying a live iPhone to a MacBook, which is connected to this GoToWebinar. So in addition to some of our Wi-Fi latency that we seem to be experiencing, there's also some latency through the GoToWebinar using this technology. So I'm going to walk through this relatively slow. The first application I'm going to show you is Perceptive Mobile, and that is our mobile workflow application. So here I'm going to press the icon, launch the application. Just like a lot of our other platforms, once you log in successfully, we will remember the username that was last authenticated against the server. So here I've done that. All I need to do is put in my password and hit the connect button. And then I will interface with the server and authenticate. So once I'm authenticated by the server, what you see here is as a user, I now have access to all the workflow processes that my administrator has given me privileges to see. And as you can see here, I have quite a few of them. And within these processes, I can open these up and see the workflow queues within them. And for purposes of, here we go. Just letting the latency catch up. So purposes of this demonstration, what I'm going to show you is an invoice approval. So within this processes list, I'm going to go into the accounts payable process. And now these are all the workflow queues that are found within that I have privileges to see. And again, I can open any of these, but because of time and delay, I'm simply going to go into the invoices for approval queue. So I select it. It'll make a call out to the server and request all the documents that are found within that queue. We're almost there. So now that the thumbnails are lazy loading, what I'm showing here, or what I'm being shown as a user, these are all the documents that are found within the invoices for approval workflow queue. And for user convenience, what we do here is we show a thumbnail representation on the left, in addition to 5 selected metadata items. And this is configurable. At least the metadata items, you can select which ones that you want to show on your mobile application. And this is used so that I can identify or look for a specific document. And within here, there's several of them. As you can see, I can scroll to the bottom of the list. So touch navigation, and I can also scroll back up to the top. We leverage a native iOS functionality that allows us to drag and drop the queue. I'm waiting for it to show here. Here we go. And then if I release this, it'll simply refresh the queue. I can do this at any time when I'm working within it. And again, apologize for the latency. It's actually a little worse than I thought it was. We're almost up to 5 seconds. So here I'm going to open a document, total office supply. And what you're going to see next is once that document opens, we opened up into a tabular view that has properties, pages, and forms. And what we're going to load first is the Properties tab. We do this first mainly because of the mobile infrastructure in terms of transmission up and down. This is information that we can bring in faster than anything else. And we're not moving. Okay. So here we go. We have the Properties tab. And again, this is just going to show all the configured items that we have in terms of the document properties and custom properties. I want to scroll this whole list so that you can see it, but due to the latency, I may just scroll down where you can see the beginning of the custom properties. So again, as a mobile user, those things that are configured in the ImageNow desktop client in terms of properties, I can view these, scroll through these on the mobile device. Now I'm going to navigate. You see at the bottom we have 3 tabs. We have the Properties tab. It's highlighted in blue, so I know that's where I am in terms of navigation. If I want to navigate to the Pages tab, I simply select it. It will turn blue, and then the client will make a call out to the server and say, hey, please bring me back all the pages that are associated with this document. That went a little faster. So here you can see we have a view that is showing me a single page. It's the first page of the document, and then I have a thumbnails view that scrolls along the bottom. We highlight the page in blue, so from a navigation perspective, I know where I am in terms of the pages in the document. If I want to go to the second page, I can simply touch the second page in the thumbnail. It'll turn blue. It'll bring back the second page. Or I can simply use swipe navigation. I can swipe to the left, swipe to the right to get to the first or third page. And I can swipe back. We have some other navigational things that we can leverage here that's standard iOS. So if I touch once on the display, I go into full screen mode. And just so you guys know, this is all latency through the webinar.
Yeah.
I'm actually instantaneous here, so I'm trying to watch the webinar when I do this. Now here we have other things like I can double tap, which zooms in. And once I zoom in, I can scroll. Come on. Well, since we have this latency issue, you really can't see very well the scroll. So I'll exit out of this, go back into the Pages tab, and just show you what the menu options are here. So as a user, I've seen the properties, I've seen the custom properties, I've now viewed the pages, and then if I'm a user that can make a decision at this point in time, I can place this document on hold, I can go ahead and route that forward, or I can access the help dialog, or I can log out. Here I'm going to cancel out, and I'm going to navigate to the Forms tab. So we can take a look at that real quick. So now it's making a call out to the server and say, hey, please bring back to me all the forms that are associated with this workflow queue. And while it's loading all the information, you can see the management controls at the top. So in terms of ImageNow, it gives me the ability to associate one eForm with a workflow queue, or I can associate multiple different eForms. So the control at the top, if I select that, it simply brings up a control that gives me visibility into the eForms that are associated with this workflow queue. Here you can see that there's 2 of them, invoice form and tabbed invoice form. If I want to move it, I just simply select it. The check mark will move to tabbed invoice, and I can hit done. Here I'm just going to cancel out of this. And then the same thing below it. When we get back to the screen, there is a presentation control. For any of you that uses eForms, you may know that you may have multiple different presentations for the same form. And if we have those, they'll be represented there. In terms of the eForm itself, I can navigate through this guy in a variety of ways. The first of which I can leverage touch navigation to scroll up and down. Which again, I apologize, you're not getting a very good feel of the scroll, but nonetheless. I can also highlight a field and put in the necessary information via the QWERTY keyboard. Or I can use the native speech-to-text functionality. So I don't have to type it, I can talk it. So again, in the Forms tab, this allows me to not only view the form content, but allows me to modify the content and save that content back to the server. So now as a user, I've had the opportunity to view the document properties, the custom properties, the pages, as well as the forms associated with this document. Now what I can do is I go into the menu and I have a few more options available to me. This menu will basically provide me with the same functionality that you saw within the Pages tab, but it also gives me the additional functionality as you see at the top. There's a save control, which allows me to save any changes I've made to the eForm. There's also a reset button that allows me to reset this eForm back to its original form in case I made a mistake and just simply wanted to start over. So now that I've viewed that, I'm ready to make my decision. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the route control. Now the client's going to make a call out to the server and say, hey, what are all the routing options available to me? And it's going to bring that back to me in a very short list. And the way we've set it up here, it's relatively simple and straightforward. We have it either going to an approval queue or a rejection queue. So if I wanted to reject this, again, I simply select the reject invoice control. It'll move the check mark down. I would hit done. It would route it to reject. Here I'm just going to leave the check mark where it is, approve invoice. I'm going to select done at the very top. So what it's going to do now is it's going to go ahead and route this document forward as it's defined in the ImageNow workflow console. It's going to refresh the invoices for approval queue and bring back to me all the documents that remain so I can continue to work those if I so desire. And if I don't, I can simply hit the control at the top. It's more of an action control. It'll bring up a few options where I can log out. So this will log me out of the client, take me back to the login screen where I can close the application. And then now what I'll do is I will move directly into the Perceptive mobile. Well, here, let me kill it. So what I'm going to show you here is the latest and greatest build of Perceptive Mobile Capture. Actually, nobody has seen this yet, so you're a privileged group. Now, one of the things that looks odd here to you is if you see at the top, there's a logo here, product tagline displayed. This isn't something that we would normally show, but this build is so interesting, I'm going to let you see this. And basically, if some of you have heard, one of the things that we're doing is we're allowing our customers or third-party developers to apply their own assets in terms of branding. And this is a holding piece for that very activity. The next time you see this, it'll have a Perceptive asset, but we're just testing it to make sure that we can drop in customized assets whenever we want to. So this is kind of an interesting thing. So just like the workflow client, I remember the last username that was successfully logged in. I just put in my username and my password, hit the connect button, and then that will log me in. Now this is a capture application. It focuses primarily on capturing still images either from the native camera module, or it can pull in existing images from your camera roll. Future implementations of this will include other services that are available through the mobile operating system, such as video, sound file capture, email capture, things of that nature. So anything that's native to a mobile phone, someday you'll have the ability to capture within this application. So here, this is called the capture screen, and this basically represents a library of what we call image sets. An image set basically represents a container of both the images and the metadata client side. So when it's on the mobile device, we call this an image set, but when it's uploaded in its final form to Perceptive content, it becomes a document. So I say image set because that's what I'm used to, but you can also just think of this as a document in some sort of working form. And what we do here, we provide the user with a couple pieces of information for them to identify what this is. So look at the first one, for example. It says Lexington AUG, and underneath it, it says expenses. So really what that's telling me is the name of the image set. I named it something that was meaningful to me. It was a trip that I had to Lexington in August, and it's leveraging the expenses capture profile. So for those of you that are familiar with capture, you have an application plan, you have a capture profile, and you have a source profile. Mobile doesn't yet leverage a source profile. We will soon. But today we're leveraging a capture profile, and that's what's being defined below the image set name. You also see some here that have a date and time stamp. That is the default value that we use, and I'll show you what that means here in a minute. So for example, I can open up any of these. I'll open up Lexington August just so you can see what it looks like. So as a user, I've been working on a travel and expense report. So here I've got a variety of different receipts that I've taken. I can scroll through these. I can upload these if I wanted to. But actually, let's get to the upload yet. This is what we call the thumbnails view. So this represents all the images that I have brought into this image set. So as you can see, there's a control bar or banner down at the very bottom, and this is where all the action controls reside. So for me to see the properties that are associated with this image set, I hit the first control, the little eye with the circle around it. That's the properties control. So if I open that up, it's basically calling out to the server and bringing back, according to the capture profile, all the property values that as a user I need to input to make this a complete document. And as I can scroll through this and look, I haven't entered in any of these values yet. These are all empty. So I'm going to select done. I just wanted you to see what it would look like to go into an image set that already exists. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate out of this image set back into the capture screen, and I'm going to show you what the experience is to set an image set up for new. So there's two controls down at the very bottom. There's a plus sign, and then there's the cog sign. That's the settings. So to add, I hit the plus sign. And so what that's going to do is that's going to bring up the management page that as a user I need to configure these items in order to set up a new capture, a new image set. So here we go. Now if you remember earlier I said we default, and this is for user convenience, we default the user or the image set name as a date and timestamp that the server provides. As a user, if this is okay with me, I can move on and save some time. If it's not, I simply highlight the field and change this to an image set name that's meaningful to me. So purposes here, I'm just going to leave it as the date and timestamp. Now I need to decide what profile, capture profile, I'm going to associate with this image set. So again, for user convenience, we put it as decide later. So if I'm in a hurry and I simply just want to start acquiring images into this image set, I can do it. But I have time now, so I'm going to simply highlight this field, and it's going to bring up a list that I can view so that as a user I can define what capture profile I want to use. So here I have one that says clinical photo, we have expenses, and we have insurance claim. And just purposes here, I'm going to use expenses. I'm going to select done, and now the application is going to create the image set with the date and time stamp as shown along with an expenses capture profile. So here we go. And now, as we talked earlier, I can acquire images into this image set by two different ways. I can take picture, which will invoke the camera module, or I can hit the add existing image control, which will open up my camera gallery. Here I'm just going to hit take picture. And with me I have found a receipt. It's got some tape on it and it's a little crunched up, but that's how all receipts are, right? So this is a real world case, as you can see here. So I'm going to take a picture of this image. Take a picture of an image. I'm going to take a picture of this receipt, and so it comes back. It's got a little shadow on it, as you can see, but for me that's fine. I'm going to go ahead and hit use. And again, for purposes of the demonstration, I'm just going to take one image in this form. So I hit the use control. What it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and apply this image into the image set. And then once it opens up, it'll bring me into an image set with the thumbnail view. And then just to show you the control, if you see the fourth control over, looks like a grid. It represents a series of images. If I hit that, it'll open up access to my camera gallery, which I'll select camera roll. Here I can individually select or multi-select. I'll select one just so you can see what the experience is. And then I hit the add control at the very top, and it'll simply copy that image from my camera roll into my image set. So when I get back to my image set, I will have two images residing in there. Now then, if I work for a company, or if I want to get a little more detail on this, I can open up an individual image. I can hit the edit, which is the little pencil on the control bar at the bottom. And then I'm going to crop this thing. I'm going to hit the options menu. The options menu will bring up a couple of different cropping options, expand, fit, and perspective. I'm going to hit the perspective crop, which we have basically leveraged a mix of corner detection and edge detection, so we get a pretty good guess here. As you can see, we framed it fairly well. And I'm going to hit save. So not only is it going to crop it, but it's also going to deskew it. So once the image comes online, so there you go. So it's been cropped, it's taken out all the noise, and then it's deskewed, so it's nice and crisp. And so here, now as a user, I've got my images that I need. I'm going to navigate to the Properties tab. And again, the Properties tab brings up, it tells me as a user what I need to enter in order to make this document complete. So under Employee ID, for example, I just highlight the field. And there's something that, well, once we get to the QWERTY here, I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. So again, we have the ability to enter metadata through a variety of ways. And one of them that I haven't showed you yet is leveraging a barcode. So I'm going to select, if you look at the banner on top of the native QWERTY keyboard, we have a barcode control. So if I select that, it opens up our native barcode reader. And so this is just to show you that not everything has to be put in manually through a QWERTY keyboard. There's other ways of entering this information. And again, I apologize for the latency. We're just waiting for the GoToWebinar to catch us up. Here we go. So here in a second, once it catches up to us, you'll see a little green line that pops across the barcode. And this is just a validation. So as a user, you can see there's multiple barcodes there. So there's risk that I could accidentally capture the incorrect barcode. So we give the little green line that says, hey, this is the one I've captured. And if you look down at the bottom, there's a human readable field that I can validate that the human readable font of the barcode actually is what I captured. Then I can simply just tap the screen to accept, and then it'll bring the barcode metadata, copy it over, and apply it into the properties field. And while you're seeing latency here, this usually happens in a matter of seconds. This is very, very fast. So as you can see here, my employee ID, now I have the information from the barcode, employee name. I'm going to put something in there. So not only do we have touch navigation for these fields, so I can touch and I can scroll up and down, I can highlight the field, but we also leverage the back and forth controls. So if you see the controls at the top of the QWERTY keyboard, I can also navigate that way. So if I press the next, it'll go to Cost Center. I'm just going to put something in. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. There's an expense type that's displayed in a drop-down menu. And here I'm just going to call it hotel. Once you can see it, I'm getting ahead of myself. So I've gone ahead and set that it. Hopefully it'll just, there we go. So there's the drop-down menu. Those are the types that are set up within the application plan. Then once I select my expense type and hit done, then I'm returned back to the image set. So now I have my images. I've applied a little bit of image processing to one of the images. I've entered all the information that I need to enter, and then To upload, all I do is I select the upload control, which is the second one. And then what it'll do is, and it's going to be slow from the latency here, but what's going to happen is I have the 3 images, the associated metadata combined into one image set. And so now it's going to come back and upload this as a document into ImageNow according to the path that was defined in the application plan. So I can drop this into workflow, or I can drop this into a file folder. And then here, this is going to give us, or it should be giving us, an upload status. And once it hits 100% and it's uploaded, then I receive a success upload dialog that all I have to do is accept. And it's not going to do it. So anyway, I think normally these demonstrations go very cleanly and very fast, but again, apologize for whatever reason in the new building we have these Wi-Fi issues as well as the latency in the webinar. So if you ever want to see this again in a little more optimal conditions, I'll be more than happy to show you.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Judd. And again, everyone, we apologize for the latency issues that we were experiencing. Thank you for bearing with us. We did have a couple of questions, Judd, that came in. The first one is kind of going back to talking about Perceptive Mobile and participating in workflow. If you only have one process, do you still need to select it, or will this screen be bypassed?
The application doesn't know that you only have one process set up, so it's not skipped.
Okay.
Yep.
I had 2 questions that came in that are pretty similar. Can the end user annotate on the document?
That's a great question. So annotations comes up quite a bit in terms of both workflow and capture. So what you saw here today is on our 6.7 integration server, and unfortunately on 6.7 both our mobile platforms and our web platforms cannot consume annotations. That includes the ability to view them, apply new, or modify. So that unfortunately is not available on the 6.7 platform, but when we get to 7.0, and if you've heard about our evolution framework, then we will have the ability to do all those 3 things at that time.
Great.
Which is expected for a December release, just so you know.
Perfect. And then with regard to mobile capture, after a photo is uploaded into ImageNow, is it deleted from the camera, or do you have to do that manually?
So there's 2. That's a good question, and I see that it's a 2-sided question. So just to be real specific here, there's 2 ways of acquiring an image into an image set. If you recall, I can take one new with the camera module, and I can pull in an existing from the camera roll, right? So taking the first example, if I take the image with the camera module into the Perceptive mobile application, then once that document is uploaded, that image is gone, okay? So that's a secure box. However, if you have pulled in an existing image from your camera roll, we do not delete that. That is something that Apple does not let their applications do. So we do not delete personal, and that's what that's considered. If you're pulling in an image from your camera roll, that's considered personal. As an application on the iOS platform, we are not allowed to delete that.
Great. We had one more just come in So no annotations. Does that include adding a stamp that is required for a script to route the document forward with 6.7?
So if I'm understanding the question correctly, you have a server-side script in place that applies an annotation to a document once it's routed to a particular place. That is a client-side functionality, and that's still in place. What you're not going to be able to do is anything mobile client side. So you can't apply that annotation from the mobile device, and you can't view it from the mobile device. However, if you submit a document, let's say you submit it to a specific workflow queue that's an approval queue, and as a result of that route, you have a iScript that runs an annotation to be applied, that will still happen because it's a server-side functionality, not a mobile client functionality. So that will still be in place.
Okay, great. Looks like we have any more questions. But if you have any questions that you think of following the webinar, please feel free to reach out to your account manager, and we can engage Judd if necessary, or like he mentioned earlier, if you want to see a second demo where hopefully we won't have these latency issues, just let us know. But thank you all for your time today, and we do have a recording of the webinar, so we can forward that to you if you want to share it with other members of your team. But thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.